Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome once again, as always, to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today for day 13 of Mr H's Florida vlog, or vlog as he likes to call them. And today, Hot Potters, I'm making this video very late. I'm currently making this at about 8 o'clock in the evening. The reason for that is today we have been to Animal Kingdom, one of Disney's theme parks, and it is the hottest of the theme parks, in my opinion. So what you've got to do, you've got to get up very early and hit the park early to try and beat the heat of the day, and that's what we've been doing. Animal Kingdom, in Mr H's opinion, is also the also-ran of the Disney parks. It's the weaker one, and it's not really my favourite, so I thought I'd leave the vlog until the evening and get the park out of the way today. Now, speaking of also-rans, I'm going to tell you a little story, because we have had the misfortune, Hot Potters, of meeting and crossing paths with another one of Dismal Disney's employees, as I like to call them. Now, I will reiterate before I continue with this story that the 99.9 of Disney staff are fantastic. They work hard, they're very courteous, and they do their utmost to make your day enjoyable. However, there's a minority out there who really don't cut the mustard, and they shouldn't be in the job, in Mr H's opinion. So, on with Mr H's story. Are you sitting comfortably? Because this is a good one, Hot Potters. Now, before I get into my story, I just want to say that myself and Mrs H have always suspected that little Toby is somewhere on the autistic scale. Mrs H works with autistic children, so she recognises the traits, and Toby's never been able to cope with sudden plan changes, and he's no patience when it comes to timings. If you tell him something, he's how many minutes now, and he really fixates on time. And these have been little clues that perhaps he is autistic. So much so, we have tried to get him assessed for autism back home in the UK. However, the wheels grind slowly within the NHS, and we're still awaiting that. But what we've done to try and prepare him, because we knew that there would be some very long waits in queues waiting for rides, we applied for and successfully got one of Disney's DAS passes, which is a disabled access service pass. And what that allows you to do is return at a certain time for a ride once you've booked it. You can't stack ride after ride after ride with it. You have to choose your ride, they'll give you a time, and then you can return. And that saves you standing in that queue, which means whatever your disability is, it will not aggravate it. In our Toby's case, in not being able to cope with long waits. So that's something to bear in mind as I start to tell you the story. Yesterday, we wanted to go to Hollywood Studios, which is a fantastic park. Toby enjoyed it very much. There's a lot of Star Wars themed stuff in there, and there's some really good rides in there. Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run being just two of them. And Toby's enjoyed travelling via the Skyliner, which are like individual cable cars that run around the parks from certain hotels and between certain parks. It doesn't cover all of Disney property, but it covers a fair old portion, and Toby's enjoyed travelling in them. Mrs H, not so. She doesn't like heights, and she doesn't like the idea of swinging about in a bathtub on a string, as she puts it. But yesterday we experienced one of Florida's famous thunderstorms. Anybody who's been out here on holiday, I know one or two of you watching these vlogs have been, you'll know what I'm talking about. Where suddenly the heavens open, it throws it down, and it's absolutely thundering and lightning for about half an hour, and then it suddenly clears up, doesn't it? It's gone. It dries up. I'll just let the golf cart go past. There goes the golf cart. It clears up and it's nice and dry again, and you wouldn't know that there'd been one 2 hours afterwards. It all dries up, the heat rises again, and you're back to where you was before. Back home in the UK, it throws it down for half an hour and you're done for the day, aren't you? Everything's wet and sodden, but not over here. And whilst these thunderstorms are ongoing, they will take the Skyliner down. They'll stopped running it for safety reasons, which is fair enough. So our idea originally was to go down to Disney Springs in the morning, have a nice meal, take a bus to one of the hotels where the Skyliner goes into Hollywood Studios, and take our day from there, giving Toby the experience of going on the Skyliner. Unfortunately, with it being down, we couldn't do that. We only found out it was down when we arrived at the hotel. So we was told they've put a bus service on that will take you from this hotel onto the park. So we waited for the bus. The bus arrived, we gets Toby James on it. And Toby James by this point is getting a bit anxious. Where are we going? What's happening? And his anxiety levels are going up. So we explained to him that the Skyliner wasn't running and we'd have to use this bus. The bus driver, overhearing this, chips in over the PA system. Skyliner's been taken off, you'll be taking a bus to Hollywood Studios. So we turned round to Toby and said, see, that man's just said that. Thinking he was trying to help us out, this bus driver. Anyway, our Toby's having none of it. He stood up and instead of saying, sir, can you just ask your son to sit down? They have pre-recorded messages on the buses that they can play. Please mind the doors. Please hold on to the handrail. Things like that. And one of them is, children must remain seated during the bus's journey. So he presses this, not once, but twice. And eventually, because Toby's taking no notice of this, he says over the PA system once again, young man, you need to sit down. This bus is going nowhere until you are sat on a seat. So we lift Toby on physically and holds him into the seat. Now, as I say, we believe he's slightly on the autistic scale. So, Toby, his reaction to that is to fight you. It's not listen to you. Anyway, Toby's getting anxious. And instead of trying to calm the situation down, he decides to add injury to it by saying, young man, you have two choices. You can either use this bus or walk to Hollywood Studios. By this point, Mrs H is in tears because he's basically belittling us using the PA system in front of a bus full of strangers. She feels everybody's looking. She's upset because she doesn't want Toby being singled out. She knows the type of prejudice that autistic people face due to a job in life from certain people, ignorant people. So she's upset. And at this point, I cracked and I shouted down at him, this bus driver, and I says, sir, he's 4 years old and he's on the autistic scale. Now, any decent human being at that point, Hot Potters, would have apologised, wound their neck in and remained quiet. Not this bus driver. He continues to threaten to stop and throw Toby off the bus if he doesn't pack in and be quiet. Mrs H is even more upset. I said to Mrs H, I says, don't worry, the moment this bus pulls into Hollywood Studios, I will have this see you next Tuesday. So, as soon as it pulls in at Hollywood Studios, he's mine. Now, an American, another dad, who was sat close to the bus driver and could see this going on, must have clocked or overheard what I'd said. So he got up and he quietly went over to the bus driver, whispered in his ear to basically, shut up, you're making the situation worse. They're struggling with the child there. He's already informed you that he's on the autistic scale. You know, you need to pack it in. Whatever he said to him, Hot Potters, and I've no idea what he said to him, it certainly worked because the bus driver didn't say another word all the way to Hollywood Studios. The moment I got to Hollywood Studios and he pulled up and everybody else got off the bus, I said to Mrs H, get off the bus and go and try and calm Toby down. I'm going to have a word with this fella. So I went straight up to him and I said, sir, I want your name and your bus number. You want my name? Why? I said, because the way you've just treated me and my family during that bus journey, especially after I informed you that he was on the autistic scale and that he's only 4 years old, is not acceptable. So I want your name and I want your bus number because I intend making a complaint about you. I'm very sorry, sir. I didn't know your son was autistic. I said, I informed you that he was and you continued. As in, the only reason you've packed in with your wisecracks is that another guest has got up and had a word in your ear and basically told you to shut your mouth. Now, I don't know what he said to you, but he's been a lot politer than I would have been at that point. I said, so, I want your name and I want your bus number. Meanwhile, although he tried covering his name on his badge rather, I managed to see it, his name was Scott. So I said, right, I've got your name, Scott, and now I want your bus number. He's umming and ahhing. Apologising in that whiny American voice that some of them have when they know they're in the wrong. And the blood by this point and the colour had drained from his face. Because he could see I wasn't backing down, but I wasn't being aggressive. Although I had every right to be aggressive. So I said, it doesn't matter, Scott. I'll go and get your bus number off the front of your bus. I'll take a photograph of it. Well, you do that, so, you know, if you feel that makes you feel better and all this. I wasn't listening to him anymore by this point, Hot Potters. Took a photograph, and then my parting shot to him was to just bob my head back through the door. And years ago, you'll probably remember this phrase that Disney had. Everything was, have a magical day. And it became a bit of a meme and a bit of a joke, so Disney stopped using that and they put it on a back burner, really. They don't use it now as much. No, they refer to you as friends and have a fantastic day, have a good day. They don't use the magical day so much. But during the heyday of have a magical day, if a cast member said to you, have a Disney day, what it meant was they was pissed off with you. And it was basically telling you to fuck off. So as I left him, I just said, and Scott, you have a Disney day now. And I left it at that. He knew what I meant. And I went over, I managed to find a member of staff on the bus station, one of the supervisors, and I reported him for what he did. And he was very apologetic, the supervisor, and he said, also report it at concierge at your hotel, because I'll be going off shift in a moment, and I will report it for you, but it won't get dealt with right away, and I take it you want it dealing with right away. And I just said to him, you've nothing to apologise for. It's the bus driver who should be apologising. You know, we've paid a lot of money to come here and not to be treated like that. That's not the Disney standard. But it just shows you there are still a number of bad apples amongst the Disney staff. There really are. I'm sure on a day-to-day basis Scott is a very good bus driver, but not on this occasion. As I pointed out to him, Disney prides itself on being all-inclusive, and the moment you pull on that bus driver's uniform, you are representing the Walt Disney Company. And your own personal feelings, you put them to one side. We've paid a lot of money to come here and have an enjoyable experience, and your bus journey has been far from that for my son. You've got both my son and my wife in tears back there, and that's not acceptable. If there's anything I'm going to take from this particular vacation, Hot Potters, it is to stand up for myself a little bit more when I get back in the UK when it comes to lousy service. As British people, we tend to just smile politely and brush things under the carpet. You know, your service has been bad in a restaurant, chips have been a bit cold. When they come over and ask you how's your meal, you say, yeah, it's fine. Then when they go away, you say, it was rubbish, that meal. But Americans don't. Americans straight away will stand up and complain about something. Sure, one or two of them move into the Kevin and Karen territory, but on the whole, they're only standing up for themselves. Now I'm going to be doing that when I get back home. If anything of America has rubbed off on me, I'm hoping it's that. Anyway, Hot Potters, this one has been a super long one listening to my rant. It's coming up to 15 minutes, so I am going to wrap this one up. Big thank you to everybody who's been leaving comments, and especially those of you who've been sticking with this particular series of videos right from the beginning. Gary Canning, Josh Lunt, Singapore Mick, I know you watch these every day. Big thank you to you, and indeed everyone else who watches these. So, until the next time, before this next golf cart gets past, it is bye-bye for now.